Cartel, move, go, go, go! Got any frags left? Seriously?
So I've caught up with Heather here to find out a little bit more about the Devil's Cartel, the third game in the Army of Two franchise. And you guys are mixing it up a little bit in this one. It's a little bit different, two new main characters, and the mechanics have been adjusted somewhat. What was the sort of the idea behind mixing things up for the third game?
I think, we played as Salem and Rios for a couple installments now. They're at this point very distinct characters with their own personality going on, and what we wanted to do was allow the player to a little bit bring of their own personality, but we didn't want to move away from sort of the storyline, and those two characters are very popular with our fans, so they're absolutely in the game, but we wanted to go in a little bit of a different direction to allow for just a higher level of customization and sort of immersion for the player. In terms of the mechanics, obviously Army's been co-op from the ground up since day one, so clearly we didn't want to go away from that, but what we want to do every time is learn and grow and learn from our fans, learn from the critics, and adjust as we go. So this time I really feel like we went a little bit simpler. We really focused on having co-op be not necessarily features or gimmicks, but really just part of the gameplay. And the bigger change for our game for the third installment was overkill, which is the big new feature. Essentially, play together, strategize. As you play together, you earn more points. These points go to fill your overkill meter, and then you enter into this sort of Rambo-like kind of over-the-top mode where you're invincible, you have unlimited ammo, and you're basically causing like mass destruction as you go, which then sort of gives you more points, which feeds into more weapon customization, which feeds into a higher level of gameplay. So really for us, it was more about using the mechanics and just using gameplay to feed the new overkill mechanic.
So I think it was mentioned here at the start of the event that Army of Two is sort of like set things in motion with co-op. Of course, there'd been co-op games before that, but it was really one of the first sort of third-person games that with co-op as the main feature. These days, it's a little bit more common. Sort of, how do you sort of stand out in that crowd when the competition is more difficult?
I think you hit the nail on the head by saying we were one of the first ones. So for us it's not really a new game mode or an add-on or a buddy that's playing alongside you. It's really our game is built from the ground up to play co-op, and even when you're playing alone, you're playing co-op because you're playing with your partner AI. This is it's our main game. It's our bread and butter. You can play with partner AI, you can play in split screen with your buddy on the couch, or you can do online. So I think in terms of just robustness of ways to play our game and sort of accessibility to how people want to play it, I really still think we're sort of at the forefront for that. And I think just the style of game we have, it is, even though we have a little bit more of a serious tone, it's still buddy, right? It's still kind of a co-op bro game, and we really went over the top with it in terms of making it really more of like an action blockbuster style game where big things happen, big epic moments, and you're working together through these instead of having it more of another player can play if they want. Ours is really like you need two players to move through.
I noticed we just got to play a few chapters here, but I noticed that there were sort of, I guess it's very intentional that there are sort of quiet moments before you get into this sort of arena of death in each level where you sort of everything just breaks loose. But I guess that sort of pacing is also important to sort of keep the player not, because it's very exerting to have those sort of overkill moments and when there's like enemies coming from every direction.
Yeah, pacing is really important. I think it just, again, it gives a break from sort of the super high-paced action, gives you a chance to sort of catch your breath, to enjoy your surroundings, look around. I think we have a really pretty game, but also it's a good segue into a bit of a strategy session heading into the next encounter. So oftentimes, you're not heading into an empty environment. You're heading into a situation where you're kind of creeping up. You can strategize with your partner as to how you want to sort of start the attack and continue. So it's obviously intentional, just for that fact.
Yeah, I think those were actually the moments where we communicated and said, you did this, I do that. When all hell breaks loose, it's more like revive me, or you're just too focused on shooting the enemy.
Right, I think, especially in those sort of overkill moments where it's really about being bigger and better, but even still, I think a lot of those times it's like, okay, I'm triggering, so one of the good things about overkill is that if you trigger, I get overkill, and vice versa, so it's kind of an added bonus where you're like, all right, we're doing this, and then, the next time you can be like, okay, I'm going.
Is there an extra bonus if you trigger them at once, then you get even longer, or?
So if you both trigger overkill, we have what's called double overkill. So basically it's, the next layer of destruction. If you can, sometimes it's hard to discern just because there is so much going on the screen, but it's basically the same thing, but amped up to an even bigger degree.
So that's what you need to do when there's a helicopter trying to shoot you down or something.
Yeah, there's specific moments where it calls for it, and then other moments where it's just fun to play as part of the regular gameplay and destroy different parts of the environment that you don't in single overkill or just in regular gameplay.
So I suppose that's sort of something that comes with the territory, set pieces, because this kind of action game needs them. How do you sort of balance that out with sort of the meat and potatoes of the gameplay and make sure that everything is just as exciting for the players?
So for us, it's the level of destruction. So in every situation, there's always going to be some level of destruction. It might not be the big set piece, but it's like the chippable covers, or one cover over time will degrade to basically nothing. And we pick and choose where those are based on sort of strategic places for what's more fun versus what's less fun. So there's a little bit of a balance between that, and then you go all the way to the more scripted, bigger epic moments when these are like full buildings are coming down. These are big helicopter crashes that are still part of the experience, but it's something different than a regular gameplay. So we kind of we pace the game like that as well.
So the setting, of course, is different than what it's been in previous games, and it's sort of. It's really sort of lends itself well to the level of destruction that's there. There's a lot of dust, there's a lot of that sort of thing. What kind of variation can we expect to see in the full game?
I mean, it's all set in Mexico, but Mexico, for anybody that knows, just has a lot of faces, right?
It's not just desert down there?
No, it's not. It's you go from all the way from we start the game off in basically in a agave farm. It's more of like a pueblo, like a little village, and then it goes all the way to city environments. To today we saw sort of graveyard church setting. I mean, there's so many actually really cool traditionally Mexican and iconic Mexican environments that was actually pretty easy for inspiration. And then when, one of the more exciting things for the team is to start thinking about, okay, how are we going to pick these environments apart? And choosing things that, like you said, lend themselves quite well to it, both from a sort of what we call the micro level, where it's more dust and more, bits of stone walls chipping off, to then the bigger sort of the, kind of shantytown type shacks blowing up and, bits of buildings. So it actually worked out really well, and it was actually one of the things that the team was pretty excited about.
So you got about a month and a half to go to release. Is there any time to put any finishing touches on the game now?
Absolutely. I mean, we're still polishing it up. We will right until the very moment that we're hands off, but we're very close. So we're really excited. It's been a long time in the making, and I can't wait for the public to kind of get another Army game in their hands, because it's been a few years.
All right. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Is it lunchtime yet?
Yeah, I could go for a taco.